ticking, yeah, we on that time. 60 on the board, now we start that climb. Get ready, get set, yeah, the moment's now. When it hits 0, we gon' show you how. Run! Yeah. Yeah. 50 seconds till the energy rise. Heartbeat fast, yeah, you feel that vibe. Lights get bright, yeah, the stage gets set. We ain't even started, but you ain't ready yet. 40 on the clock, now we pick up pace. Every second count, yeah, we in that race. Crowd tuned in, yeah, they locked in tight. Whole room buzzing, yeah, we taking flight. Yeah, 30 seconds left, now we turn it up. No slowing down, gotta fill that cup. Energy peaking, yeah, it's building fast. Blink one time, might miss that blast. 40 on the clock, yeah, we feel the heat. Baseline knocking, got you out your seat. Hands go up, yeah, we ready to go. Whole vibe shift when we hit that flow. 10, 9, feel that energy climb. 8, 7, yeah, it's almost time. 6, 5, yeah, we live right now. 4, 3, let me hear that crowd. Steve on the mic, yeah, the nurse got skill. Break it down smooth, keep the whole squad chill. Talking about kidneys, yeah, we keep them on track. If your numbers off balance, he gon' bring them right back. Got the wisdom on deck, no stress, just facts. Hydration, motivation every time he reacts. From the clinic hallway to your podcast feed, dropping gems so fresh, yeah, that's all you need. Steve the kidney nurse, yeah, you know the name. Keep your body in check, yeah, we play no games. Real talk, real health, yeah, we keep it pure. Tap in right now, Steve the kidney nurse, yeah. Steve the kidney nurse, yeah. Steve the kidney nurse.
Good evening, and welcome to the second episode of Dialysis in Life with Steve the Kidney Nurse. I am your host, Steve the Kidney Nurse. Now, peep this. My guest today, you're not going to believe this. See, she think this is the first time I seen her, right? When she reached out to me. She thought that's the first time I know of her. But I seen her and her advocacy on Facebook. I just didn't say nothing. You know what I'm saying? I seen her work on Facebook, her post. Anybody like, Steve, who is her? Who are you talking about? I'm talking about my guest today, Jennifer Hill Gowan, a kidney dialysis patient, relationship coach, and check this out, a fearless storyteller. So get ready for a candid conversation about love, resilience, and rebuilding life on your own terms. Building life on your own terms when you get hit with a chronic illness. Who better to help you navigate that than a relationship coach that also been hit? Mike Tyson hit by kidney disease. Share this live, subscribe. We're going to get started shortly. But before we do, we had to do a little bit of housekeeping rules. Okay? You know and I know that this show, the information broadcast on Dialysis in Life with Steve the Kidney Nurse, is provided for educational and informational purposes only. I'm not a doctor. I'm a nurse. And this information is not intended or implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, and treatment. Now, with that being said, let me tell you about our guest before I bring on. Our guest resides in Fort Worth, Texas, United States. She's a certified relationship life coach. Now peep this. She used to work for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm talking about the Pro Football NFL team, the Dallas Cowboys. And I got a bone to pick with her about that because I'm a Redskins fan. And if you know, Dallas and Washington got a rivalry. So Jennifer is currently on dialysis. She does CAPD. And I believe what caused her kidney disease is type 2 diabetes, which is the number one cause of kidney disease, kidney failure. And I always say that, with hypertension coming in second. And guess what? She does CAPD. And me like, Steve, what's CAPD? That's continuous ambulatory peritoneal dialysis. And she does it 3 days a week. So see, I'm a home dialysis nurse now. I converted. And I tell people, you may not, if you still got urine output and they want to put you on dialysis, PD is the way to go. Because you may not do 7 days a week. You may just do 3 days a week. You may just do 1 day a week, 2 days a week. You won't know unless you find out. So Jennifer, she's going to tell us about that. She was diagnosed in 2020, which a lot of people was, because in 2020 what hit C19. I'm not saying that caused hers, but a lot of people that I've seen come on dialysis was because of C19. So she was diagnosed 2020. By 2023, she started. Now she's on the kidney wait list. She's been on for 3 years. Her blood type is B positive, which is typically 5 to 7 years wait time. She's been published in 2 magazine articles. That's what I'm saying. I seen her work. And she was a life coach that helps people cope with these diseases that she deals with. She's going to tell you a story. With that being said, let me bring on our featured guest, and I want to thank her for coming on, Jennifer Hill Gowan, and we're going to give her, like we give everyone else, the special VIP intro. Hey, Jennifer, how you doing?
Hi, how's it going out there?
All right. It's good to have you on the show. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come on Dialysis in Life with Steve, the kidney nurse, to share your journey and to share your advocacy and I don't want to say your past profession, because I feel like you're probably still doing that here and there, coaching people on relationships, especially people who deal with chronic illness that are in relationships. Mm-hmm. So let's start with this question right here. Can you tell us about your path to becoming a relationship coach, a relationship life coach, and what led you to retire because of your kidney disease? The floor is yours.
Yeah. So I've always been kind of just ever since I was a child. First of all, my birthday is February 15th. So, I was a Valentine baby. Okay. And my mom and dad and I used to joke about that. Like, she's like, my parents would always be like, that's my sweet child, because, I was born in February on the, 15th, the day right after Valentine's Day anyway. So that's just kind of like my little joke. I feel like that's why that's part of my life journey anyway. But anyway, just kind of going back to the beginning of when I first started, I um I was at a point where, we're always doing pivoting, right? Like throughout your career. So the beginning stages of my career started out in early childhood. So I used to work with children. I worked at a lab school, and I did ended up going to Tarrant County College, and started my career in early childhood. So I worked for a lab school, and I worked for a company called Children's Courtyard, and it was a preschool environment that was a lab school where you train other teachers that come through and stuff like that. And that was the beginning of my career. But I did that for a while, and at different points of my life, pivots happen. So that was kind of the beginning. Then I got this amazing opportunity, like you mentioned in the intro, to be able to go and work for the Dallas Cowboys. That was because I had a parent at the time that worked for the Dallas Cowboys, and they, told me about a position, and they knew I was in a space where I had, we were trying, my husband and I, I've been married for 26 years.
Wow.
Just this past, last week actually made our 26th year of marriage. So,
Congratulations.
thank you very much, very much. We're very proud of that. Only to God be the glory for that. But anyway, so we were trying to have a child at the time. So things got really tough for me being in that field. So I ended up getting an amazing opportunity to start working for the Dallas Cowboys. And again, that just kind of came out of really literally out the blue. The parent contacted me, let me know that there was a position there. It was lined up for me to, everything in my life that has happened. And I am a very spiritual person, and I always make sure people understand that about me, because that's a big piece of who I am. Everything in my life has happened that way. It's just, the opportunity meets,
So
the next thing that I'm trying to do. I'm always just keeping my ear to the ground, and letting God guide me on, where I need to go next and that kind of thing. So I'm always open for opportunities, and things like that have just kind of happened. So, so that one just kind of literally landed in my lap. But of course, when you look at things like spiritually, it was my steps being ordered, because it was in a place in my life where it was time for me to pivot. So,
Jennifer, I'm sorry. Let me stop you right there for a moment. Let me
yeah.
ask you. Tell me about the day, or tell us about the day you found out you had to start dialysis.
Okay.
What was that day like for you?
That day, I had been going, so it was 2020. And actually starting before 2020, in 2019, I started having like issues with blood pressure. I was in and out of the ER, and I kept having like just all of a sudden my blood pressure spiked. And prior to that, I didn't have any issues. But I'll tell you what, I started this medication because I started seeing a endocrinologist. And the endocrinologist that I was seeing put me on a medication called Basaglar, and it was for diabetes. Because before that, my A1C was kind of out of whack, and they were trying to figure out the best way to control my blood sugar. So I kept having high blood pressure and having issues with that. And I was seeing that same endocrinologist, and he referred me over to see a nephrologist because he was saying that, your A1C is high, your creatinine is at a level where it's out of whack, and it's time to start seeing if there's something going on there. So it was because I ended up going to see a nephrologist, and they did all the tests on me, and were able to find out then that, it looks like you are in the beginning stages of kidney failure because of the creatinine level being so high. So, and it kind of, I sort of crashed into it. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't, and that's what the doctors were kind of baffled about too, is because typically when you have, when you become a dialysis patient, or when you get kidney disease, chronic kidney disease, typically it's because of a long term, the long term effects of having diabetes. But for me, it went from A to Z, real quick.
Wow.
So that's what happened is my blood pressure was spiking. My creatinine was up higher than the average, creatinine where it should be. And they started having to do tests to see, what was going on. And they did a spinal test on me because my in my family history, my mom has multiple sclerosis. So they were thinking that maybe it might be an autoimmune disorder, which would explain the quick, turnaround with that. But they did,
fast.
I'm sorry.
I said it kind of happened fast.
It did, yeah. They tested me for all kinds of autoimmune disorders. Another funny thing that happened at that time too is that my legs, like I started having an issue with walking, and they kind of have decided that that's probably just part of neuropathy, which is also due to diabetes. But at first they were thinking if you've got, this walking issue that came out of nowhere and it hit you at the same time that you started having the kidney problems, then they, were thinking that it could all be related. And so the answer would have been autoimmune, disorder. But they checked me for lupus. They checked me for another autoimmune disease called CIDP, which is like chronic inflammatory demyelinating. Some I forget what the P stands for, but I didn't have that. They thought I had that too. But they did all these checks and come to find out it was none of those. So then they just decided that, we think that it's just the fact that she's had, kidney disease, diabetes that it's just been out of whack for so long. They couldn't find the right regimen to keep me on as far as, the insulin to take and stuff like that. So that's where they feel like my kidney disease started from.
Right. Wow. Before I ask you the next question, I want to give a shout out to Leah Donovan. They asked me if I could give them a shout out. So shout out to Leah Donovan. Thank you for watching Dialysis in Life with Steve, the kidney nurse.
Yeah, thanks.
So Jennifer, my next question, how did retiring for health reason affect your sense of identity and purpose, especially coming from a career centered on helping others with relationships?
Well, that's the thing. That was challenging. And that's the part that it was tough because it took me forever to make the decision that I needed to go home, but God had kept dealing with me on it and saying, it's time for you to leave that, you need to leave that job, because your health is number one right now. And, so my husband and I talked and we talked about how we were going to make that transition because obviously financially, that's a big difference. We're going down from, making my, decent lucrative salary that I had, to now having to kind of rely on his. And then, but the good thing was that I was able to get on assistance. So that's been a big help too. So cause that gave me another income so that I can be able to focus on my health and then also have an income. But the change obviously was significant. But as far as, morally, the morale kind of goes down. You kind of have to that's where you become your own life coach, to where you have to kind of encourage yourself to pick back up and keep going. And so I had to figure out a new way to be able to still do what I love, but do it in a new space. So because I'm used to pivoting, then I was able to do that. I was still
So
able to continue to coach, so I still do coaching with people and stuff like that. But I no longer was working for, the dating service that I worked for before. And I started doing more individual coaching, to where I'm working with clients kind of individually, and doing it that way. But it basically took time for me to just kind of go back to the drawing board and say, hey, how am I going to do this now? What is this going to look like? Where I could still do what I love and then still encourage people and still, be grounded in my career field, but also take care and focus on my health, which is what was kind of taking a back seat at first.
hmm hmm so let me ask you this. What does a typical week look like on CAPD 3 times a week? Because you may see some people say, I do peritoneal dialysis, but I got to do it every day. Everybody's prescription is going to be different based on, let me just say this before we move on. This is something that I learned when I transitioned from working on the floor. I still work on the floor sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm a PD HHD nurse. See, what some people don't understand, there's certain characteristics that determine what type of PD treatment you're going to do.
Uh-huh.
If you still urinate, what type of transporter are you? Meaning your membrane of your of that's in your stomach, the lining. What type of transporter are you? You got different transporter types on, like if it, urea is going to be more quickly eliminated, or the fluid. You got to determine if somebody's going to use something called icodextrin, which is a glucose-based solution that you
Mm-hmm.
let sit in for the whole day. So it's it just determines on the patient. So that's why one has to seek other options if they just get diagnosed and they got to start dialysis. It's more than in center. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to say that. But with you, Jennifer, what does a typical week look like for you being on CAPD, which stands for continuous ambulatory peritoneal dialysis 3 times a week? What does that look like for you, and how did you adapt your daily life after starting treatment?
Sure. So for me, I do it 3 days a week. I started out actually doing 4 days a week. And so the process that I do, the reason that I chose to do continuous ambulatory peritoneal dialysis is because when I talk with my nephrologist, who shout out to Dr. K if he's on here, Dr. Kanaganti here in North Richland Hills is where my doctor's located. Best nephrologist out there. He always says K for kidney. So,
Hey, wait a minute. Let me stop you for 1 second.
uh-huh.
Hey, Doc, shout out to you. We got Valerie Ruby Red that commented, said, she's responsible, talking about you, for my marriage to the most amazing man. And that sounds like, excuse my language, that sounds like a damn good woman,
Yes,
Valerie Ruby Red, and how
yes,
she describes her husband and the most amazing man. So thank you for watching the show, Valerie. Shout out to you and your comments for Jennifer. So I just wanted to
yes.
say
Thanks, Val.
that. So go ahead.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, thank you. That's one of yes, absolutely one of the ladies that she's now part of my family, and she is one of the people that I help with the relationship coaching, and so they were able to get together, and that just recently happened. So yeah, shout out to them. They just got married.
Wow,
But
that's
yeah,
great.
so with doing peritoneal dialysis, I decided to do that because to me, that was the most organic way, using the less or the least, because you use a sugar water based solution called dextrose
Mm-hmm.
and some other minerals and
Come on
magnesium
now.
in there. Yeah. So to me, when I listened to the options of what I had to choose from, that seemed like it was a little bit more organic of a process for me. And then also I wanted something to where I could control, because I'm kind of a control freak, to be honest. And I wanted to, be able to be in control of my own health for as much as I could. So, when you go in center, you kind of rely on, the machines, and you rely on other people to assist you. And if that's the best treatment, for somebody, I always tell people, choose what works for you. But for me, staying in as much control as I could, that's what I wanted to do. So what it looks like for me is, I do everything manually. I have a port that is connected to my peritoneum, which is it's with my stomach, the lining of my stomach. It's a small little incision that you get, that has a port, connected to it, and that's how I give myself the solution. And the solution that I'm giving myself is my grandkids call it medicine. So they're
Hey,
learning about that too, so I try to keep everything simple for them. So we call it medicine.
you ain't
So
trying to get stuck with this needle.
yeah, yeah, I wasn't trying to do that right there. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so so I have the port, and that's how I give myself the quote unquote medicine, and it dwells. So I give myself that. It stays in there. Typically, before, I was doing a 4-hour dwell time, and I was having to do that 3 times a day, for 3 days a week. And so I would skip kind of every other day, and that was kind of the schedule I would have. But actually, I started out 4 days, and then I was able to, because it went so well. My doctor is really good about making changes as we see progression. And it's not like I'm necessarily cured of, having to do dialysis, but things have gotten better to the point where I was able to go from 4 days a week to 3 days a week. So now I do it 3 days a week. And just recently, we changed the prescription again, because he's always trying to figure out new ways to do this to make it more easier on his patients. And so if you're getting good clearance and the toxins are being cleared out, and things like that, he's willing to try new things. So what we're doing now is I've moved up to a stronger solution, which is a 7.25.
That's the
And
icodextrin.
yes, yes. So I'm now using that. I'm only having to do a 4-hour dwell time. I give myself the solution at 5. I do the normal one, the one that I was doing before, which is the 2.5, which is the I call it the green bags. That's the solution. It's just different from the one I'm doing now. But I do that one at 5 in the evening. And then I put that in and, let it stay in for a little bit of time so it could do its work, which is the dialysis working. And then I take that out and put in the 7.25, and I leave that in overnight now. And
Okay.
I'm able to, just a tad bit of a solution, just 1,000, milliliters of it. And I leave that in overnight. And then when I wake up in the morning, I take that, I drain that out,
Mm-hmm.
and then I go about my day. So now
Wow.
I'm doing that 3 days a week only, and it's working out really well because I'm only having to do one exchange, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. Let me take a pause for the cause, for our excuse me, our myths versus facts Myth First Facts Buster segment. Dialysis and Life with Steve, the kidney nurse. Myth First Facts segment. Now, by you being a relationship coach, I want to see what you say on these myths versus facts. I have 3 of them. So the first one is dialysis is too much for relationships to handle. Is that a myth or a fact?
I'd say that's a myth.
Okay.
And I say
Why
that because,
say that?
Well, I mean, I'm proven fact that, 26 years I've been married, and I've been a dialysis patient for 3 years now. And if anything, the compassion for my spouse has grew more, watching me be a warrior and go through this process. And so I don't think it should be if it's the right person, I don't think it's going to be a hindrance in your relationship at all.
Mhm.
But you do have to do a lot of communication. Communication is key in any relationship. So it's going to be even more important when health is concerned. So you just have to communicate what's going on now, in this new space that you're in. Um, you know, what are some changes going to be? You sit down and talk about those things, and you allow that person that you're with to be open, have an open space to be honest about how they feel about it. Because it's new territory for them too. But that's what we did. My husband and I, we were able to sit down and just kind of talk about what that's going to look like for us going down the pipeline, and what kind of dynamics are going to change. Like, now we probably aren't going to be able to go out as much because sometimes I'm going to be tired. Because with dialysis, that's the main thing for me, is that being tired, I have to factor that in. So there's a lot of boundary setting now. I have to set boundaries up with everybody. So that's been a new part of my life, is setting up. Before, I realized I didn't have as much boundaries. Now I realize that, with this new space, I've got boundaries now. So just have an open dialogue about that. I think that's what keeps the relationship fresh and going and new. You have to be able to communicate and talk through whatever challenges you guys have.
Very understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So here's our second myth versus facts, Buster. Marriage can't survive kidney failure. Marriage can't survive kidney failure.
That's a tricky one. I mean, again, in my own personal situation, I would say that that's a myth. Because again, a relationship doesn't have to not survive because there's challenges. That would just pose a new challenge. But then at the same time, for me, it just goes to show too how strong your relationship is. If you got somebody that can't roll with you, when health challenges and things are a concern, then that probably wasn't the right person for you to begin with. So it kind of gives you a little exposure on who you're dealing with too. But I don't think that just with the challenge of health issues, it should be difficult. I mean, it's going to be challenging, and again, a lot of communication and a lot of new territory is going to have to be explored. But as long as you guys are upfront and honest with each other about the feelings, about how things are going to go, and just kind of keep an open line of communication, I think you can conquer anything.
Sure, I definitely believe that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one is kidney failure ruins relationship.
That could be true. It doesn't have to, but I mean, I guess I can kind of play devil's advocate on both sides. Sometimes, that may be a lot for somebody. Especially if it's like maybe a new relationship and they've never been with somebody that has had a health challenge or something like that. I don't think it has to be. But I think that for some people that it may, in some relationships that it may not, that may not work out. But again, to me, it just also shows too who you have in a partner, you know. But those are things, that's why I think that having that open line of communication and being honest and upfront in the beginning, I think that's why it's most important to talk about those things. Because for some people that may be a challenge for them, to where it may be more than they can handle, because it's different. It's different. Somebody that has a chronic kidney disease, it's considered to be a disability for some people. And so if you're not open to be with somebody that has something that's considered to be like a disability, then that might be a problem for somebody. But then there's people out there that are very much open to that, and it's not a hindrance for them at all. So it just depends on, I think it just depends on the people.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question before we continue the interview. What would you say to a couple, whether it's male, whether the disease is placed on the male or the woman? What would you say to a couple where whoever is affected by the chronic illness like kidney disease has decline in intimacy?
What would my advice be to them?
Yeah, because you may hear this, and I've seen many people deal with this disease on social media said that their boyfriend or their husband or their wife left when they found out that they had it, or as time went on, they couldn't deal with it because of lack of intimacy, or maybe for the male, with the blood pressure medicine, with the erectile dysfunction, or with women who maybe, excuse my lack of expression, may, have some dryness in their vaginal area and may be uncomfortable having intimacy. What would you say to couples such as that, and that could be watching this, that's falling in this pattern or this type of situation where one is hit with kidney failure or diabetes to the point where it's impacting their intimacy?
Sure. Well, just again, with anything, I would say that you just need to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations. And it doesn't have, and it depends on, what's going on. Like, I know, me personally, that didn't really affect our, our intimacy isn't affected as much because of the type of dialysis that I do. It doesn't, there's not an issue there. But with some couples that may be challenged, because maybe, like you said, if it's a gentleman, if he's dealing with some, like you said, erectile dysfunctions, or these are things that can happen with those types of health issues. You just have to talk about it, as a couple. And, intimacy happens in a lot more spaces than just sexually too, though. So that's where you guys as a couple, may have to introduce some other things and be a little bit more creative. That this is actually a common issue with people, not just people that have health issues, but this can be territory that, even the average couple may deal with, just with age or different things like that. So when I would say when that's at play, then again, communication is going to be your biggest thing. And it would be time for you guys to talk about that and just figure out other ways that you can include intimacy into your relationship, And again, it just doesn't always have to be sexual. Figure out other ways that you can include intimacy. Intimacy could be touch, or intimacy is conversation and doing things together, spending time with each other. So sometimes you may have to, if you do have a physical issue, you may have to rely on some of those other love languages to get you guys through that. But that's where and there's I wish I had I known we would talk a little bit more about this part, then I probably could have provided some material to read, because I'm sure there's plenty of books out there that talk about, people being in these spaces and what you could do. And it probably will give you more tips, on different things that you can add in, when you have these kind of challenges. But I
Right.
would just say, this is those times where you can kind of rely on some of the other forms of intimacy if physical intimacy is an issue.
Mm-hmm. And we can revisit this at a later date, where you can have your material with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And have a broad conversation about this. But we're gonna move on because time is ticking away. But let me ask you, Jennifer, by dealing with type 2 diabetes, and that is the number one cause
Hmm.
of kidney failure. And if you're watching right now, and if you got diabetes, I highly suggest and encourage you to go get checked for kidney disease, because the
Yes.
life you save may be your own. But Jennifer, my question to you is, how has managing type 2 diabetes alongside dialysis shaped your relationship with your body and self-care?
Well, I'm very much in tune with what I need now. The first thing I think of is like boundaries. Um, Before I would just go, go, go all the time. And now I have to make sure that I take time for myself and take breaks when I need to. And so I really have a lot of boundaries set now. If I'm tired, or if I can't go, or I can't do something, I can't attend this one event. I was mentioning to you earlier today when we kind of had a pre-talk, that I come from a really big family, and we have a lot of family activities going on all the time, and things like that. And um, but I set boundaries now. If I'm not able to make it, I can't come. Love y'all, but I can't come. I have to take time for myself now. And it's something that we all should be practicing. Same thing with my friendships and stuff like that. So, including boundaries has been a big part of my health journey. Knowing when to say no now. I can't do everything and I can't be everywhere like I used to. And so really taking time for myself. I do a lot of relaxation things that help me kind of relax and keep my mental state, in a good place. Helping others really still, and being part of still being able to help in relationship coaching and things like that. Those are things that's good for my mental, to keep me kind of going too, because it keeps the morale for myself up as well when I'm helping others. So those are some things to help me cope too. And just my partner, my husband, talking with him, he's a big support system, and we have conversation going all day, every day. He works from home too, so we're here together, and so we do a lot of talking, and that's healthy for our relationship. I also have my mom, who is my best friend, and she's at home too.
Hey,
Everybody's
Mom.
here. So my mom's here. She's a retired nurse, actually. So
All right, shout out to
35,
Mom,
yes,
my
over 35
predecessor.
something years. And my mom had multiple sclerosis. So she was a nurse that had and that's another big piece to why I am the way that I am too, and what keeps me motivated. I watched her be a nurse and care for others, for years, and even back when she had a mobile wheelchair, like the mobile scooters. She
Mhm.
was a nurse back then, made it look
Wow,
cool,
shout out to mom.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm used to having warriors in my family, and we're just built that way. So anyway, having her here, she's a nurse, and so she's a retired nurse. So just to be able to have her around also is a big help. Because if I'm feeling weak, or if there's, things that need to be done around the house, she helps with that. So I've got a huge support system, which I realize not everybody has that, and I'm very fortunate to have. But I rely on my resources too, around me. I have a son too. Shout out to Tori, my son.
Hey,
He's
Tori.
wonderful.
Shout out to
Yeah,
Tori.
he's in the maintenance space. He does, contracting and plumbing and all those things. He's really talented in that area. So he comes over and helps me with those kind of things. So I'd never have to worry about that with our house. I really just rely on my
Right.
support system a lot, and those boundaries are really important.
What's your
So
husband's name?
my husband's name is Keno.
Hey, Keno. Shout out to Keno. All right. Hey, Marsha. Oh, Marsha Parker, what's going on? Thank you for watching the show. Jennifer, let me ask you, let's shift gears for a moment because we got about 12 minutes left.
Sure.
No, but let me ask you, and I'm sure a lot of people want to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
You've been on the kidney transplant wait list for 3 years. How do you cope with the uncertainty of waiting, and what keeps you hopeful day to day? And I mean, how do you communicate that uncertainty to loved ones without creating extra worry?
Well, me personally, like I said, my spirituality is a big piece to who I am, and so just knowing that there's a purpose behind all this is what keeps me grounded. Um, because it is a challenge, and when this first hits you, it's not. I'm not going to act like there was never a time where I'm like, Lord, why is this happening to me? Because I definitely, had those kind of feelings. But I also see purpose in this process. And so I'm just hopeful to know that there is a donor out there for me. Currently, right now, my husband is being checked again, and coming up in May. So everybody be in prayer with us. He's going to get retested. He was retested. He was tested to begin with in the beginning when I found out I had kidney disease, because he has the O positive blood type. So he's a universal donor, and so we really just thought, oh, this will be great. He can be my donor, and especially with him being O positive. But he got tested, started the process of it, and then come to find out he had high blood pressure at the time. And that's one thing I do want to say, everybody that's out there listening, is that in order to be a donor, it's not a simple process. It's a little easier now that we have the matching donor match program, where having the same blood type doesn't have to be the case anymore, because now there's a donor matching program where they can match you with a donor even if your blood type is different, because someone can donate a kidney and on your behalf if you don't have the same blood type, and then that way they can find you somebody that has your blood type, because you do have to have the same blood type in order for that donor to be able to donate to you. But because of the matching program, they pair you with somebody that does. And like Steve mentioned before, I have the blood type that's that's the most difficult because it's AB positive and or I'm sorry, B positive, and that's one of the rarer forms, and it's more difficult, which is why we have the longer wait time. But I just really rely on my spirituality. I just know that there's a bigger purpose in all of this, and that's what kind of keeps me grounded. I know that I will be healed, whether it be through a donor or if it be that it just miraculously gets turned around. I have an uncle, believe it or not, that had kidney disease, and he he was on dialysis too. Shout out to my uncle James, if you're out there listening. He actually was able to get off of dialysis, and to this day, he has not had to be on dialysis. He is has was cured from kidney disease. He doesn't have, he still visits the doctor and stuff like that, but he doesn't have to be on dialysis. So I have that as something to think about too. So I'm just very hopeful, and I
Mhm.
just stay positive and stay in a positive space, even on times where you know the process can get to you. Just happen to do this on a daily or like a 3-day basis. It's trying, but I rely on knowing that there's a bigger purpose in all this, and God is going to heal me, and whether that be through a donor or if things just turn around for me, however that's supposed to be done, it's going to happen. So that's what keeps us all going around in my camp over here.
I
So
got you. I got you. Shout
yeah.
out to Marsha Phyllis Parker. I just remember Marsha who you was. I haven't seen you in a long time. So shout out to you. Hope everything's going well. It's been a minute. So our time is counting down. But I got 3 more questions to ask.
Okay.
Um, the next one is, as someone who coach others through relationships, challenges, which coaching tools or conversations have been most helpful to you personally while navigating chronic illness? And as a follow-up question, could you share one simple exercise our listeners could try to strengthen communication under stress?
Okay. I'm sorry. So the first question that you asked me, tell me
So
that
the
again.
first question is, as someone who coached others through relationship challenges, which coaching tools or conversations have been most helpful to you personally while navigating chronic illness or kidney disease?
Yeah, well, communication is the biggest thing that I find. It always seems like communication is it's the area where most people have the most challenges, I think. And so I get asked a lot of questions about how to communicate things to people. Um, like as far as like when they are having health challenges and stuff like that. I'm not sure if that's answering your question or not. But being able to communicate and just have open line of communication,
Sure.
uh, to me that seems like the thing that most people struggle with. But it's also the most helpful thing, is to be able to just have open dialogue and talk about it. A lot of people like to keep things to their chest, and talking about things. It's a lot of healing, even in just discussion, communicating.
Mhm.
So
Is there one thing that you could share with people watching, like a simple exercise that they could try to strengthen communication under stress?
um I would say, find you someone that you can talk to. Um have you a partner that you can kind of rely on. kind of your accountability partner. I think that that's helpful to, to just kind of have somebody designated that you can, speak with. And that's and get into a group too. A lot of people don't think about that, but like there's a lot of groups out there, like living on dialysis. You know, I'm also a ambassador for the American Kidney Fund. That's a affiliation you can become an advocate for and get affiliated with. Find you a group that have people that are going through the same thing that you might be going through, that you can team up with, that kind of keep each other accountable, and also that you can rely on, because of course those people are going to understand what you're going through. So I would say find a group, find a group that relates to what you're going through, and team up with some people that are like-minded. That helps me stay grounded also, just teaming up with other people that are going through the same thing. So
Okay. So let me ask you, I know you said you retired due to kidney disease. What do you wish friends, partners, or employers better understood about supporting someone who retired because of kidney disease and relies on dialysis? What do you wish they better understood about this disease?
That's a good question, Steve. Yeah, because I haven't been able to really answer that in a while, and thinking about that. That it's not that the person is not
I'm
selfish.
sorry to interrupt, but any specific do's and don'ts you recommend? Maybe that can help facilitate that.
Yeah. So I would say start having those conversations as you see it's getting to be that time, because a lot of people, some people do have to make the decision to leave their job, and it's challenging. So, trying to figure out a plan on how to do that. It's good to start talking to the employers, and kind of letting them know, find out what's the best way to make this transition, that kind of thing. That's that's one of the things I think, and to know that you're not it's not a selfish decision either. You're doing this for your health, and you've got to make a transition, and so for them not to take it personal. Is that kind of what you're thinking about as far as the question?
Yeah, just some do's and don't that, again, you wish that, again, people understood, like partners, friends, employers, because like I said, you had to retire medically. There may be people watching this that in a situation where they find out they're diagnosed, and they may not get that support from that employer or partners or friends. And
Yeah.
so
I think, and that does happen, especially if they feel like they're losing an employee that was a, significant to the business. But it's a personal journey, and you have to just, let them know that your health comes first. I think that's the most important thing, is to, just remember that your health comes first. And so now, yes, I'm a relationship coach that happens to have chronic kidney disease, and I'm dealing with that. But it's not the other way around, and that's important. My health now is important to me, and my health is taking a front seat rather than a back seat. And so employers need to have more patience with people that are, going through these things, because, when I first found out I was getting diagnosed with kidney failure, I was vomiting every morning, getting up, trying to go to work still. I work from home, but I was sick every morning, until they figured out what was going on with me. And here I am still trying to, get up and go. So the employers, it's important for them to be patient with their employees, Some employees are going to have to use FMLA. Um, that's what I did at first, to started kind of using my intermittent time. But eventually it came time that I had to just go full time, and just leave my career altogether full time so that I could focus on my health. But there's things like that out there, FMLA. So you kind of have to start developing a plan and figure out, how you're going to make the transition. So I would say do your research and figure out how you can make the transition. Start looking at, things that you can use if you've got time, or, things like that with your job, that you can start using, like your intermittent time, FMLA. Those things are important. That's why they have those things in place. So if you've got to start using that, use that. But then also know when it's time for you to go. When it's time for you to make the transition. If you've got to do it full time because you're having to do a full time treatment schedule, then you got to be able to figure out how you can pivot and do that in a new space, and and still keep your health as the main concern. So
Sure.
that's what I would say.
Okay. All right. This is not the last question, but the next to the last.
Okay.
So I want to ask you a question, which is pretty much like the elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You live in Texas, and we all know about Texas. It's a big state. It's a Republican state. Have you personally encountered systemic or logistical barriers, meaning insurance, access to care, employment policies, during your time on dialysis and the transplant wait list? And how have you advocated for yourself, and what would you change systemically?
So yeah, that definitely plays a factor in in this space. So I don't know how much people know about the whole. I'm still learning about this myself, but there's a factor with me being African American. The whole GFR thing, which I'm still kind of getting comfortable explaining that whole thing. But if you're African American, just last year they made a change to where that's where your calculation of like your wait time, there's like a formula basically for your wait time, of how long it's going to be that you be on the waiting list. And for a lot of African American people, because we can hold more creatinine in our body than the average person, I was told that that's one of the reasons why there's this whole GFR thing. And I unfortunately, I need to do more research on it myself. But basically, just last year, because you are African American, you were given more time added, in a good way, to your wait time, which potentially gave you more time, kind of gave you back more time on the wait list because of you being an African American. And because initially that was a factor, like because you were African American, then previously you might have had to wait longer than someone that was non-African American. And they just changed that formula. And that was just a change that happened last year. So that's something that actually was beneficial for me. In my wait time, I was actually given some time due to the whole GFR situation. And I'll have to revisit that conversation because that's kind of a long one, and that, but kind of based on what you're talking about, with systemic issues and things like that. That is one of the things that was a factor. Was as far as me being African American, having to wait longer, which is why we need more people to donate. You know, especially for African Americans, because we're some of the people that don't do it. Aren't as there's not as many donors that step up to the plate, that are African American, and that needs to change. And that's why I became a advocate with the American Kidney Fund. That was something that motivated me there. Shout out to my cousin Tamara Walker. She's one of the people that helped me to become,
Wait
be
a minute,
interested.
hold on. Tamara Walker out of Georgia.
Yes,
Who won the Hope Life Award? I think.
Yes, that's my cousin.
What?
Yes. I'm connected to some great people.
Are you serious?
So, yeah, that's my cousin.
Because I was meeting up with someone in DC at a hotel last year, and we were in the same hotel, and we were in the restaurant eating, and Tamara and Artis, I can't think of her last name.
Carr. I've seen her name before. Artis Carr. Shout out to Artis too.
Walking in the restaurant, and I seen them, but I didn't really know who they were. And they picked me out. They like, "Hey, Steve." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
And that was my first time meeting Tamara Walker
Yes.
at this restaurant in DC at dinner. Ask her about it. She'll tell you. We took some pictures together.
Yeah, she's doing some wonderful things with the American Kidney Fund, and she's kind of been my mentor with me seeing, what I can do within the American Kidney Fund too. So I'm one of the Texas warriors now that's out here fighting for the cause and trying to get some things done in Texas. And I'm excited about what everybody's doing with the states. I don't know, Steve, if you've been following much about that with the ones that are getting the donor money, that's able to be used, the $12,000 that, a lot of these states are being able to use as a tax credit so that we can get more people to be donors. Those are some of the causes that American Kidney Fund is working on right now.
I heard about that. I have my own opinions about a tax credit opposed to, giving out the money and helping somebody in time of needs, not at tax time, but if I'm donating, and say something happened with my surgery where I got to take a little bit more time off from work than expected, and it could happen. We don't know. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the time and you got bills, they got to get paid.
Yeah.
But that's a great conversation to have, definitely at a later date. Now, let me, as we kind of conclude, I'm over by 10 minutes, but that's okay. I'm not a stickler, but I do like to keep track of time. But with this last question, looking ahead, what are your hopes for your health, relationships, and any future projects or ways you may re-engage professionally? What final message would you like to leave listeners who are facing their own health-driven life changes?
Sure. Well, some of the goals for going forward for me is, again, I right now, I'm doing all that I can with the American Kidney Fund. I'm excited, to be on that team, and there's a lot of things, a lot of spaces that I feel like I can be of assistance here in Texas. So it's kind of put me in new territory, which is kind of political territory, which I never thought I'd be in, but with a lot of these things, that's something I see in my future. And then, I'm not really sure what direction things are going for me. I mean, I'm still a practicing relationship coach. I do more individual coaching now. But hopefully I'll be able to dive back into that full time. Once I do get a donor and I'm able to have the transplant surgery that I need and more healthier at that point. That's some of the things that I'm looking to do going forward. But I definitely want to make some change here in Texas as an ambassador. So that's my main focus right now in the space that I'm in currently. And I'm sorry, I think you asked also what are some things I could say for the future for other people, like to give them some hope?
What I was saying was, what final message would you like to leave listeners who are facing their own health-driven life changes?
Okay. Yeah, to just stay positive. Find things that you can do that keep your mental health in a good space, because that is going to be a big piece to what helps you keep going, you know, because we're going through a lot of physical changes and a lot of things are happening at once. So I would say, find those things that keep you happy, whether that's, being around the people that make you happy, things that you enjoy, like if you enjoy getting out doing a brisk walk or exercising, do things that keep your mental state in a good place. That's what I do. Keep things around me that I enjoy. So, I do things with my grandkids. I have two grandsons who are awesome, and I see them all the time, and I'm able to spend time with them. My family and we do activities together. Those are things that keep me happy. My family is number one for me. So that keeps me happy and keeps me going. And then also my spirituality. If you're a spiritual person, let that keep you grounded too. I do a lot of praying and meditation and things like that. Those are things that help me. So I would just say find those activities that speaks to you. And if you need a journal your processes down, the things that you're doing. Journaling is good because it'll help you be able to look back and reflect. So, if you're journaling, then you could kind of talk about how you felt, when you first started this journey versus, looking down the road. You may read an entry and say, I didn't know, I was coming out of, maybe you were depressed in the beginning or something like that. Journaling and watching your small wins and successes may help you, to start feeling better and lead you out of depression or something like that. So if you're dealing with those kind of things, journaling would be good. So just find things that speak to you. And for me, family and my spirituality, those are things that keep me grounded and keep me going. So that's what I would say.
I'm just joking. Speaking of the devil, Tamara showed up. She just said, good question. Tamara, thank you for coming by. I got to get you on the show as well.
Yes.
So you got to hit me up, big time Hope Award winner walking around with a trophy and with a plaque. No, I'm just teasing, but
yeah.
Congratulations. Absolutely. So as we, and I want to thank Laura Green for coming over from TikTok. Thank you, all supporters who came from TikTok to watch this second episode of Dialysis and Life. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
As we get ready to sign off, Tamara says she's here to support you.
Thank you, cousin. Good to see you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, as we end the show, what would you like? What last message would you like to leave people about you, and where can people connect with you if they want to find you as well?
Yeah, so I hang out a lot on Facebook. I know my son keeps telling me, "Mom, you got to get with it. Like, there's other things out there besides Facebook, but but Facebook is where I'm at because that's where I have most of my followers and stuff like that. People that I'm connected with from all walks of life, from the journeys I've had and the career paths and stuff like that. So I'm always on Facebook under Jennifer Hill Gowans. I'm also AKA the Real Housewife of Texas one. So you can find me there. I just recently got back on TikTok after Trump did his thing that was weird with shutting down TikTok. I got off then, but I'm back. So you can find me on TikTok now too. Also, I am on Instagram, so you can find me on Instagram as well. And you can always email me too at the Real Housewife of Texas, the Real Housewife of Texas 1 at gmail.com. If you want to shoot me over an email, if you've got any questions or need any kind of relationship coaching, things like that, those are all things that I'm still involved with, and you can definitely contact me there. Again, I'm also an ambassador for the American Kidney Fund. So you can find us on Facebook as well or at the website, www.theamericankidneyfund.org. But those are places that you can find me. And the last thing I just want to say is just, you guys that are out there in the kidney community, we're all warriors. This disease is not for the faint at heart. So there's a warrior within you if you are somebody that's been diagnosed. And just keep that in mind, keep that fighting spirit, and that'll keep you going. That's what keeps me going. And like I said, my spirituality, those are things that keep me grounded. But I would say just keep fighting, and keep winning, and don't let kidney disease knock you down. Keep stay in the fight, do what you got to do, take care of your health, set your boundaries, get around people that make you happy, be in spaces that keep you happy, keep your mental health together, join you some groups to where you could be around like-minded, positive people. But those are all things that help me. And I would say those are some things that could help you too. But I thank you all for listening. And I thank you so much, Steve, the kidney nurse, for having me on. It's been a pleasure speaking with you guys.
Hey, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on my second episode of Dialysis and Life with Steve, the kidney nurse. Many people don't know that I've done podcasts in the past before it really kind of became popular.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, Jared Brown, Lisa Baxter, Jonathan Trailer, Uncle Jim, and some other people were doing podcast shows to, again, try to spread that awareness,
yeah,
education, and information, because a lot of people, like you said in the beginning of the show, crash into dialysis with no understanding or information or education to make a educational decision that can possibly impact the rest of their life. So
right.
I want to read some of these comments. Marsha Phillip Parker, I believe she had a transplant. She started an organization. Not sure the name of it, but put it in the chat, Marsha. She says, you're not alone. We are here for you. Valerie mentioned, we love you, Jennifer. Again,
We love
thank you,
you.
Valerie, for coming by. Y'all don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel before
Yes.
you leave out of here. Subscribe to that. And with that being said, I like to thank Jennifer. I'm going to get ready to drop you, but again, thank you so much for coming by, and I'd like to bring you back for a co-host appearance episode. I'll let you know the date and the day, and see if you're available to come on. And maybe it could be a day when I can get Tamara to come on, and we can interview her, and you could be the co-host. That make it more probably comfortable for her and you as well to discuss her accomplishment and in the advocacy space, because to be honest with you, I know Tamara from New Beginnings Foundation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's how I know her from. But I didn't know she was really big in the advocacy space. And when I saw that Hope Award, I was like, what?
Yes, that's very proud moment for our family. Yes.
So
she's a powerhouse.
That's awesome. Hey, you got to get me voted next year.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'd like to thank everyone. I want to drop you down again, Jennifer. Thank you for coming by, and I will reach out to you.
Thank you for having me.
Future show again. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I'd like to thank your supporters and family for coming out and watching the show. Thank you so much, fam.
Thank you for having me on, Steve. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in to the second episode of Dialysis in Life with Steve, the kidney nurse. And like I said, this is going to be a weekly show where we're going to push being supportive, empathy, compassion, segments of sharing stories, road to recovery, interviewing people who have had transplants, who have been or who are on that road to transplant or received a transplant or had a transplant and now back on dialysis. A lot of this you don't see. Got a patient spotlight, got a myth versus facts buster segment. So this is going to be a great show, weekly show. We hope you continue to come by and watch and support the show. And if you would like to be a guest, we filled up till July. But if you would like to be a guest, please send your email to stevethekidneynurse@gmail.com. And with that being said, again, thank you everyone for watching and tuning in. Stay blessed and encouraged. I'd like to thank P-Teach, Marsha Phillips Parker, Tamara Walker, the Hope winner. Who else? We had Jennifer from TikTok, Jennifer Green. I'm sorry, Laura Green. My bad, Laura. Valerie Ruby Red. Who else? Janice Fortenberry. Wick Dazel. Life Spiller. And if I missed your name, hey, forgive me, but thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. We will see you next week with a new episode of Dialysis in Life with Steve, the kidney nurse. Stay blessed and encouraged, and we'll see you soon. Peace.
Steve on the mic, yeah, the nurse got skill, break it down smooth, keep the whole squad chill, talking about kidneys, yeah, we keep them on track. If your numbers off balance, he gon' bring them right back. Got the wisdom on deck, no stress, just facts, hydration, motivation. motivation every time he reacts. From the clinic hallway to your podcast feed, dropping gems so fresh, yeah, that's all you need. Steve the Kidney Nurse, yeah, you know the name. Keep your body in check, yeah, we play no games. Real talk, real health, yeah.